Well, good morning, whoever this is that's watching in eager anticipation. What's he gonna say next? I'm off to work. It's a bright and sunny day here in Oklahoma City, and I am off to work. So this morning I woke up at 4:15 as per usual, and I was very sore. I decided not to go running, which I'm sure I probably should have. But then I bargained with myself as I stood there and I said, you know what? If you're not gonna go running, you gotta at least do push-ups, and then it's okay. And so that's what I did. I did push-ups, and I contemplated my next moves as far as creativity and art, fitness, and I'm really thinking a lot about what to do as far as my creative passions. I'm rekindling that whole creative fire, and I'm trying to decide what to do about that because, like I've mentioned in the past, I've gone very astray from my creative side. For a really long time, I was shooting professionally, models and magazines and art. And I still shoot professionally, but the creative end of it, I just kind of let go for a while. Obviously I get to be creative at work, which is awesome. At work, it's all transit related. But I still get to be creative, and I enjoy it a lot. But, shooting the things I like, fine art, getting back to shooting models, I think that's the fire I'm trying to rekindle. And I'm very inspired to do so. The problem has been, and it kind of still is, and I'm trying to work through it, is what to do with the photo and video, the artistic photo and videos that I create. I'm not really sure what I want to do with it. I've mentioned before, with the onset of social media and YouTube and, people getting this ultra fame online from it, I fell by the wayside a long time ago because I used to create, images that people just loved. People just really, really loved my images, and I had followers from all around the world that would send me messages, and I'd pull into town and do workshops and teach people, and people loved my stuff. And that felt really good because I didn't have that early on in my life at all. I was basically invisible. So with the onset of my photography, all of a sudden I had, this connection to the outside world, and I could get out of my head. And I really enjoyed that. And I still enjoy the creative process, but meanwhile, I ended up with tons and tons of images that honestly I don't know what to do with, because my following it's sad that it has to be a following, but that's the only form of connection that I've figured makes sense in my life, because in real life the reality is either people don't understand your work, they're jealous of your work, they don't relate to it because in their life, they go to their boring 9-to-5 and they see you taking photos of models and they're just like, they don't get it. Other photographers, I haven't been able to connect with as much. I know tons of photographers, but for whatever reason, I'm extremely bad at fostering friendships. When I see them, I can talk to them. I've taught myself how to talk to them, and we get along. But then when I don't see them, I just don't reach out. And my online presence is nothing now. So what I'd really like is to have an online presence of some sort. Clearly, YouTube is huge. Instagram's huge. I don't do TikTok. I tried when it first, not when it very first came out, because it seemed really stupid. I'm not going to go out and do dances. Seemed like that's all that was on TikTok, is people doing lame dances. And I still, honestly, I'm not going to lie, I can't stand it when I see somebody my age doing some dumb dance just to get attention. I mean, hey, I'm all about people doing whatever the hell they want, you know, man. That's up to you. I don't care. But for me, it's just, man, that's not my thing. I hate begging for attention. I truly do. And I think that's been one of my struggles, is social media and YouTube, if you want to call that social media. I don't really know if that qualifies, but I guess it's sort of social. But it feels like in order to truly get somewhere on social media, to get a following, first of all, the whole following thing just makes me cringe a little bit, because part of me says I don't want a following, but part of me is like, hell yeah, I want a following. So it's a fight, you know. But in order to get successful on social media, I think you really have to, I don't want to say beg for it, but you kind of have to beg for it. Unless you're established, or you're a beautiful woman, and then for whatever reason, well, not for whatever reason, men or women that want to be you follow you. So you constantly see these really pretty women saying, just be yourself, don't worry about anything. It's like, that's like a rich person saying, don't worry about money doesn't matter. It's like, well, but you've always had it, or you have it right now, and of course to you it's easy to say. For somebody who doesn't have money does matter. For somebody who doesn't have the looks, or if you're a middle-aged male that's not particularly attractive, looks are pretty awesome, because it'd be neat to have that just built-in attractor that just people want to follow. But at the same time, I mean, that's the wrong reason for people to follow you, and I'm sure that comes with all kinds of issues. And I'm not trying to say that that's better, because I'm sure that actually probably sucks for some people. But I digress. All of those things to say, social media has a certain amount of begging. And, you have to get the content out there. You have to hit subscribe, hit like, want me, like me, and you got to try to constantly think, how can I impress people? And man, I struggle with that. I do. And I always have. I love the creative process, and I want people to see my work, but I also don't want to beg for it. That really just goes against my personality, sadly. And ironically, here I am trying to make a video, but I'm not trying to say, by making this video, I'm not trying to say, click here. I'm just, honestly, I'm expressing myself, and I'm getting my thoughts out there, and I honestly don't expect anybody to truly listen to it. Now, having said all of that, yes, my dream would, it's very contradictory, I get it, but my dream would be to have hundreds of thousands of followers, and influence people in some really cool way, whether you're really inspiring people to go out there and follow their passion, or take photos or video, or create something, or because I feel like we can change our world, if nothing else, by being positive and doing fun, creative things. So that is a dream for sure. And I know that takes a certain amount of marketing, so to speak, aka begging. Or just being a really good salesman. Maybe your product is so good, and by product, whatever it is that you do, is so good that people can't help but to follow you. I guess that would be the ultimate dream, where you're not really out there looking for people to follow you. They just do because whatever you're putting out there is just that awesome. I think that'd be amazing. But at any rate, so I've been trying to get back into the creative process, and the last couple days I've taken my camera out at lunch. Yesterday I did the same, and I just walked around downtown and explored and took photos. And I'm considering, I have an action cam, that's what I'm recording on right now, but I have one at work, and I was thinking, man, it might be cool to do some behind the scenes of the photos. And then I was thinking, well, where should I share the photos? And I was thinking, on YouTube, obviously, you can share some photos. I could put it into a video form. There's a lot of ways I could do it. I'm just mulling this over, but I'll be back. All right, I'm back. I was thinking, I was getting my coffee, taking care of some business. I was thinking about it. I think what it ultimately comes down to is me connecting with other people. For whatever reason, that has been my eternal struggle since I was a kid. And I mean, I'm sure I could unpack those reasons pretty easily, but the reality is I've just struggled connecting with people. And I feel like, whether I want to market myself or so-called beg or, promote, or I don't like rejection. There's nothing worse than when you create something, whether it's be a photo that you're really proud of, or a video that you really feel passionate, or songs that you've made, and it's crickets. And the reality is, I know, especially now, you got an algorithm, and it's a whole thing. Whether people literally even see it is a whole thing. Just because you make it doesn't mean anybody's actually physically going to see it. And sadly, we have an attention span issue these days. People don't have an attention span. You're scrolling and scrolling and scrolling and scrolling, and you've got, mere seconds before you're bored, and you're on to the next thing because there's so much to take in. Back in the day, you might come across something that you enjoy, and you'd really take the time to enjoy it, or you'd save it, or you'd frame it, or whatever it is. People recorded VHS, they recorded something off a TV, and they'd watch it over and over and over until it was worn out. I mean, you'd have a cassette tape that just got warped because you listened to it so many times. But nowadays, everything is so fleeting. We don't care. On to the next thing. You watch a movie, you've already forgotten it because there's so many movies. There's so many things to see. People, celebrities, social media content, you find so much out there, and it just doesn't matter. People just don't care, and I got to remember that. It's hard to remember, especially when you're on the other end of it and you're the one creating things. You want people to see what you see, that you want people to get the message that's in your heart. And I know that that's just not the case. You have to be able to kind of turn and burn, unless you've somehow earned yourself an audience that really loves your stuff, and now they're going to take an extra minute or 30 to watch what you have, or take in what you have, or really capture the moment, or whatever the deal is, because you've earned them in some way, shape, or form. And the algorithm also sees the engagement on your material, or whatever, the followers, the likes, the comments, and it serves it up to other people. So now your content is being seen because people think, oh, well, this is important stuff. This is the stuff that matters. And there's a whole science behind it, I'm sure, but I struggle with that for sure. Because, for instance, I have an Instagram page, with photography on it that I put up at one point, and it's, I don't really even add to it anymore. And I don't have the followers, I don't have the big, even though in my mind, and I've had the comments like, how is your work not getting seen? How do people not see this stuff? And it's because I haven't earned the audience. I haven't begged for it. I haven't marketed for it. And people might have pushback about the begging thing. I mean, I get it. Semantics, whatever you want to call it. In my mind, it's begging, but no different than the soccer mom that's out there dancing for the camera just because they want to be popular. They did some silly trend or whatever. And man, I struggle with it. I do. But I know it's hypocritical because I want the attention and the followers as much as they do. So I guess that's the rub, isn't it? You got to figure out, well, what do you want? What are you willing to do for it? It's like getting in shape. What are you willing to do for it? I mean, if you're not willing to do the early mornings or late nights or the extra walk or the diet or then you're not going to have the results. It's just all there is to it. So you have to really figure out what it is that matters to you. And I'm speaking to myself, and I do that a lot. I talk to myself and I try to figure out, well, what am I doing? What am I not doing? And what do I want? And a big part of it is connection for me, the tribe. I mean, I say I have everything I need. I got the wife and I got the kid and I love them, and my wife is social. She has her connections, and I'm the husband. I'm the guy in the background. But I can be in the foreground as much as I want. I just don't seek it. That's the problem. I've got plenty of people I could reach out to, I'm sure, but I can't figure out when I would want to do that. And it's funny, when I've assembled photography groups or something, tons of people come out. Like, it's easy for me to get a group of photographers real quick to go on a photo walk or pretty much whatever it is that comes to my mind, because people know that I have this portfolio, and they're just like, it intrigues people, right? So they're willing to come out, but I don't foster it. I really just don't foster it, even though I want to. So it's one of those, I want it, but do I really want it, And I guess that's what I'm trying to figure out, and it's a good reason to talk this out, because I'm trying to figure out what it is that I need to do about that. I guess what it all comes down to is, this is the world we live in. Social media is what it is, and you either want to play the game or you don't. If you want to learn the game, just like anything in life, you can learn how to do it. You just have to be willing to do what it takes. And I guess that's the ultimate question I need to ask. Am I willing to do what it takes? Because, like I've mentioned before, it feels like when you get on social media, everybody is already doing the thing that you wish you could be doing, because that's the way the algorithm works. That's, you're searching whatever, and suddenly you find it. And there's lots of it. And so it feels like everybody's doing exactly what you wish you could be doing. But the reality is, that's not true. That's a little sliver of the world. Most people that don't do what you do or want to do. And so if you want to do it, you got to just do it, and you got to be willing to do what it takes. It's that simple. Being a human is hard for some people, I mean, some people figured it out a long time ago, and some people, it takes a lifetime, to figure out how to be social, how to follow a dream and not quit, how to not get discouraged. And it just takes a lot. Sometimes it feels easier than others. I feel like I'm on a positive trajectory right now, though. I think when you start asking the questions, that helps, because now you get on a path. And I have a personality that I have sort of a pit bull personality at times. When I get onto something, I don't let go, and I figure it out. So I know anything that I really want, I can make happen. I mean, that's just a fact. I can make what I want happen if I put myself out there, but I have to be willing to power through, the silence, the rejection. And nobody specifically rejects me, It's just the silence is sometimes deafening, and it's social media and the algorithm are hard to deal with at times, because I don't necessarily understand. It feels like you don't get a chance, You might feel like, well, why can't we all have an equal chance? Like, wouldn't it be neat if your feed could be filled with just things that you haven't seen or don't know about, or new things? And I'm sure there's ways to do that. I mean, I get it. But, the algorithm it's tasty, right? It just gives you all the things that you want when you think you want it. And you get served up this special plate of just the things that you search for. And you can get lost in it. And of course, people that aren't into that mainstream algorithm, they just disappear. YouTube, for instance, they apparently, I've seen the videos, they test out your stuff on a small audience. And if you don't have if people don't watch through, or they don't click on the ads, or they don't leave a comment, or whatever the deal is, they just kill it and you just disappear into space. It's funny too, though, if you think about it, before all the social media existed, what did we have? You just had people that you met, friends, people that you worked with, whatever. Those are the only people that would see any of the things that you made. There was no platform, there was no social media or internet where you could just put yourself out there and have the chance, even the chance that people could see it. It didn't exist. So to complain about the fact that we can start a YouTube channel and strangers that you don't know from anywhere in the world could maybe see your content is crazy. I mean, for an artist, that is amazing. And I forget that, as we often do. You get so desensitized to things that you forget how amazing things really are. And this is a good reminder for me that if I take a photo that I enjoy, at least there's a chance that somebody might get to see it. Where in the past, what you're going to take it home and you're going to do what with it? Maybe you'll get a gallery show. Maybe if you're persistent enough, you could get it in a coffee shop or a gallery show, and you might get 20 people that go to the show if you're super lucky. Or if you have a social network, your mom, your friends, your coworkers, and but there was no way to really share it, and so that wasn't a thing, and you just got used to that. And that's the age that I grew up in. There was no algorithm, there was no social media. It was just word of mouth, and quite frankly, you'd take things and you'd be happy if 4 people saw it, that you showed it to them, and they said, "Oh, that's super cool," and you felt good about it, right? And sometimes you dreamt of, wouldn't it be neat if I was on TV or in some big gallery in some city or something. But that was, that was a long road to try to do something like that. So for me to sit here and complain about the internet or social media is stupid, because honestly, all of the notoriety that I've ever gotten from my images was because of the internet. And social media. So I think what it comes down to is me just needing to learn how this game works. You got to learn the rules of the game, and you got to learn how to get out there. And then you got to be willing to go make the content, produce good work, and follow your passion and keep doing it over and over because you enjoy it. And if you don't enjoy it, you shouldn't do it. But that is huge, just learning how to do that. But, I'm going to sign off for now. I think I've said enough for this day, but I appreciate anybody watching. And if you do happen to watch, let me know so that I can know that it's working. All right. I'll see you soon.